Kiwis love a thirst. Like Finn, we're making waves. Generate. Switch online today.
Lee Warren, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First of all, are you working for Department of Corrections?
No, I just wanted to make sure I was wearing the correct attire.
If you're listening to this, you won't know what we're talking about. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will. He's wearing like green Department of Corrections badged overalls. Where'd you get them from? Are you allowed them?
Technically, yes, and technically, no. I don't know. Until I get told off, it's fine, right? You know, ask for forgiveness, not permission. Found I think it was Facebook, sell it. You know, how you're like, looking for nothing in particular, wasting time. And I was like, oh, $10, yeah. Bye, done. Yeah, and then here we are, overalls.
And I the green underneath, I recognise what that is. That's an Achilles top. Are you an Achilles athlete?
I am. I found it super helpful to be at events with a group. It just makes it so much easier. I mean, you do running as well. When you run alone, it's super boring, but you're in your own mind, and sometimes it's good for training. But when you're at an event, yeah, it's really cool to do it with a group, and then your group goes places, and then you're with somewhere with a group. And I found that, yeah, super good, especially in New York.
Yeah, such a great community. For anyone that doesn't know, what's the quick spiel about Achilles? Who are they?
Quick spiel about Achilles. Weirdly enough, I thought it was blind people, but because, you know, bright yellow.
They do a lot of guided runs for blind runners.
So it's not just sight impaired. It's for anyone with any disability, and they help you get involved with a guide or without, but get involved with a group and just get fit, basically, and help you go to events. It's about your win, your challenge, your event, and then they'll help you succeed with other people that want to help you succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do a great job, and that's a great explanation as well. Now, this is your very first podcast. Congratulations.
Thanks. What was that noise? It was my cherry popping. It is. I feel super nervous.
Do you actually?
I'm with you, you know, I'm JJ. This is massive. And it's been years since I've been involved with anyone who's been famous or is still famous. And doing something like this.
I'm a has-been. I think I was a never was been. It's great to have you here because I've known you for a very long time, and I saw you comment on one of my posts on one of the social media platforms, and I thought, fuck, Lee would be a great story to tell, like just to shine a bit of a light on you and some of the stuff you've done, because I don't know if you like the I word, but I find you an inspirational guy.
Oh. Thank you. I was just getting lost with the fact that you swore, and I'm like, we can swear? Shit, let's go. Thank you. No, I do take it with a grain of salt nowadays. I used to rub it off and be like, oh, no, I'm not an inspiration. But anytime I find now that somebody reflects on something that you do, you need to take it. You know, like when somebody cheers for something that you've done, you need to take it and take it as part of yourself and say, that's me. I've done this. I've deserved this. And not just rush off stage quickly and I'm all embarrassed. So thank you. I appreciate that. I don't see myself as an inspiration, and yet I want and like the idea of being inspirational to people, which sounds such a juxtaposition and ironic. But yeah, thank you.
Now, how did our paths cross? I was thinking about this the other day because I've known you a very long time, but I can't pinpoint. I can't trace the timeline back to the beginning.
The very first, and I found it the other day after Coldplay was here, was you got me on to do a song, and I can't remember how we got into contact for the Paradise. Paralysed, and I park and I can't shop and all this. It was terrible wording.
Oh no, I remember that.
It was so good.
I wrote it and I thought, I think we were on the show with Mike Padu at the time. It was JJ, Mike and Diamond. Mike was the only one of us that can sing, and he was like, I'm not going to sing this. So I thought we need to have it sung by an actual real life disabled person.
Yeah.
There was a line in there like, my shoes are brand new all the time. And
it was
the spacious loo at the
and good park. I always get good parking. It was phenomenal. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, and I looked at the lines and I thought this is great. And I think it was either we met through that, and then the edge next top friend, or it was the other way around. It was the edge next top friend, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's right, Lee's in a chair, we'll get him to do the song. But I remember the song. The song was way better than the edge next top friend. I still keep in contact with Ollie as well.
What is the edge next top friend?
So the edge next top friend was kind of like your big brother. And again, this is for anyone that's like 20 years old. You've got no idea what's going on. And you had a bunch of people, reality TV, and you chuck them together and then quickly take them out of their norm and their brain of what's normal for them. And you see people like cry of somebody leaving after 2 days, and you're like, well, that's rubbish. And then when you put yourself in that situation, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, it totally does happen. And all the reality shows like Mr. Beast or whatever it is, I have been watching those.
Oh, likewise.
And yeah, it's great. And the money involved is insane. And you see people, and they're crying, and the mental and emotional side of it, because you're outside of your norm, everything else is heightened. We were talking before about the emotional, and am I an emotional person? You think you might be, but then when you put yourself in a completely different situation, everything's out the window. Everything you think you know about yourself is gone, and then everything's new. And that was the edge next top friend. It was to see who was going to be voted on. What was it? Bebo, Facebook. Insta wasn't around.
Oh, MySpace.
MySpace.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's coming back to me now. So, next top friend, it was like you guys had to accumulate as many social media friends as what you could.
Absolutely.
Or else you'd be kicked out. And we discovered, because this was in the very early days of Facebook, this is how early it was, we discovered there was a limit of 1,000 friends that any individual can have on Facebook. And then, so our promo staff were like scrambling around trying to get hold of Zuckerberg or whoever to get this cap. Yeah, that's fascinating. Oh, yeah, no, it's coming back to me now. And it was in a house in St. Mary's Bay.
That's right.
And it was this is inconvenient for you, a 2-story house. And there were disputes going on with the Edge and the tenancy tribunal for like years afterwards because the walls around the stairway were damaged.
Oh, no, I remember the man broken it out. I'm going to jump down. It was, yeah, I'm not going to say names, but somebody... jumped down there and their elbow went through the wall, and then it was like fixing things to the walls with the M3 easy remove, and it would pull off paint. And somebody would go, well, that's not easy to remove. Look at it, it's just damaged the wall. Oh, yeah, I remember all that.
So I've got a quote from you. My life changed for the better after my accident. It was one of the best things that happened to me. It just took a few years for me to understand that.
Yeah.
So you're... this chair that you're in, you've been in that since you were 16, and you're how old now?
50. Yeah.
50, yeah. So
50.
You've been in the chair for way longer than what you were out of it.
Yeah, and it's a hard comment or quote. Thank you for that. But it's very true. It does hopefully resonate with a lot of people because it took me a while to get myself out of my own way.
What does that mean?
Yeah. I was my own worst enemy, and anyone that says that or realizes that that's true knows what I mean by that. Where at the start of me breaking my back, I was trying to do, without realizing it, trying to do all the same stuff that I was doing before I broke my back, which I couldn't. So then I would get frustrated, and then I would lock it up in this little chest inside of me of, because I'm in a wheelchair. But then I also put everything else in there. Why can't I get a girlfriend? Why can't I buy a house? Why haven't I got a car? Why am I getting pulled over by the police because I'm drunk? Everything was because I'm in a wheelchair. Yeah, I know. There's loads of stories like that.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, is that a wheelchair in the back? Well, how do you drive? And I was like, fast. And then he still gave me a ticket. But everything that went wrong in my life for the first few years of being in a chair wasn't because I was speeding, because I was drunk, because of this. It was because I was in a chair. And that meant that anytime anything to do with being in a chair was frustrating me, that box opened up and it was a jack in the box, and everything came out, and I abused people, and it was quite horrible. I look back on that time, and I was an ass. I was a terrible person. I'm surprised I even had one girlfriend, let alone several. Not at once. Well, one time. But it was, I know, sorry, I go on sidetracks, I distract myself.
We're having these beautiful moments.
And then I ruin them.
You ruin it with these little sidebars.
But it's very true. But that was the type of person I was, and until I got out of my own way and moved on, and stopped allowing myself to get in my own way. I mean, there was how it came to a head, because everything comes to a head. Somebody says, "Oh, I woke up the next day and made a decision and I made a choice." I'm not that guy. I'm a slow learner, very slow learner, and it took me a long time. And it came to a head where I actually tried to commit suicide. And when I say try, I did. Not I was pretending and I got found. I took a whole bunch of pills, and without going into too many details, I was super lucky I was found. And
What age?
21.
So 5 years after the accident.
Yeah, yeah. And
I'm guessing that was 5 years of suffering then.
Yeah, and not just for me, it was for everyone around me. Everyone that loved me. Strangers, they probably thought I was awesome. But everyone that loved me, everyone that was close to me, suffering for them as well. And it wasn't until after that incident of the suicide that I started to make changes and started to become a better person. I'm not great now. I still try and fix myself on a daily basis. But it did help. And it was a good catalyst for me to start getting better.
That's a lot, real early. Real early.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we might get back to that and pick around that stuff for a bit. But first of all, I want to go through some of your greatest hits.
I normally leave them to the end, but yeah.
Okay. I mean, because some of the stuff you've done, it's like it's eyebrow raising. It's really cool. So last year you did a couple of marathons. You did the London Marathon and the New York Marathon, dressed in a squirrel suit.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. So that's the beautiful question. Why? Well,
why not?
There's why the squirrel suit, why the marathons, and why do them at all. The first whys is because I was turning 50. And I'm like, well, let's make this year good. I'll do the London Marathon, because then I can go over there and see family and it'll be cool. Now, why the costume, because I'm going to take it back a step, is that came about. I actually trained for, see, this is going to take it down a dark rabbit hole, he says, smiling. I trained for 3 years for the Paralympics in wheelchair racing. I missed out by 0.2 of a second. That's how long it takes that to happen. And after training for that long, it took me a couple of months to get over it as to, why, the whole why. That's the question of anything. It's like, why do you do it? To what end? To what goal? What are you trying to achieve? And I realised that I actually didn't want to be in the Paralympics. Everyone sees you doing something when you're able-bodied, and they're like, oh, go you. When they see somebody in a wheelchair doing something, they're like, oh, you must be training for the Paralympics. You must be doing this. And it sort of, I think that set in my head, that must be why I'm doing it. So I went for the Paralympics. Anyway, I failed. But I was doing this thing called a sleep diet, and I got interviewed for Round the Bays, and they said, oh, you're doing Round the Bays? And I was like, bleh. I said, yeah, I'm going to do it in a gorilla suit. And they were like, what? I'm like, I guess I am now, because I've said it. And I did. And I came last. But it was the best event I had had in years. And I absolutely loved coming last. And the level of anonymity, I made 2 children cry, but the level of anonymity at the end was fantastic, because someone actually came up to me afterwards and said, oh, did you see the guy in the gorilla suit? And I'm like, yeah, that was cool, wasn't it? Because he didn't know it was me. And I absolutely loved it. So I took that on board and was like, right, let's do different costumes. So I did Round the Bays in a night suit, a wetsuit, a Batman suit, obviously the gorilla suit, a panda suit, panda in a sombrero. And then a friend of mine that worked at First Scene said, oh, we've got these squirrels from this, I think it was a Cadbury nut bar ad, and they had like 50 of them. You want to wear a squirrel costume? I'm like, yes. And I wore it, and it was awesome, and it showed the face. That was the cool thing. So still some level of anonymity, but it didn't scare anyone, and it was a massively hot costume. And I was like, great. And then the following year, they actually gave it to me. So I was like, great. So
awesome. You perspired, and it's so much like, we don't want this. We don't want it back.
So they gave it to me, and I was like, great. Okay, well, this is now my costume. And so that's why the London Marathon was. So funny story, if you don't mind me, I backpedal a little. So I sign up to the London Marathon, but you have to wait for approval. Now, anyone that hasn't done this, but I'm sure you have, you have to go in for a ballot, and the ballot then allows you to then do it. You don't just like, oh, register online, now I'm doing it. I couldn't wait that long. I needed to prep, I needed to pay for things. So I signed up to a charity, and it costs a lot more, but then they give you guaranteed entry. And I'm like, right, do I tell people about the squirrel suit? And I'm like, no. I talked to other people, and they were like, oh, yeah, you should, safety concerns. I'm like, no, because if I tell them, they can say no. And then that's it. Always easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Right, that's what
right.
I say.
So I turned up the day before, and this woman looked at the squirrel suit and me, and she was like, oh, no. She had a straight face, and she was just like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? Playing dumb. And she waves her hand and says, all of this is a no. And I'm like, well, we shall see about that. And I say, oh, can we go somewhere and talk about it and discuss it? And yeah, a long story short is they allowed me to do it, but the wheelchair race isn't wheelchair. It isn't race chair. It's the elite wheelchair section. And you don't see clowns doing an elite run. And that's what they couldn't allow. So I was like, oh, this Muppet is in here in his squirrel suit. So they said, well, you can do it with the elites if you wear Lycra. You can do it in your day chair in the squirrel suit, and you can do it with the other numpties, or you can do it with your race chair in the squirrel suit, but you do it with the runners. And I was like, well, obviously the latter. And I did, and it was really dangerous. It was really scary.
In what way?
Well, you as a runner, when you're running, you look up here. You don't look down. And when you're, jibbing, jamming to get your place, you don't look for a little 10-inch wheel on the ground, because I've got a long chair. It's like a triangle, and there's a little wheel at the front, big wheels at the back. But I'm even lower than this when I'm in a chair, and you're quite tall. So when you've got bunches of runners, it was horrid. And for the first 10 minutes, I hated it. I hated the event. I hated everything about it, and the organisers and rah. Until, again, like I say, about getting me out of the way. I got me out of the way, and I was like, I'm dressed in a squirrel suit. I'm doing the London Marathon. Yeah. And then I started to enjoy it, and I didn't care about my time. And so I had fun, and it was good.
That's awesome. And then, so that was, London's usually April, and then New York's like November. You did both of these last year, and you even made the New York Post.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Oh, thank you. I was super happy with that. I had 3 goals for New York. One was that the squirrel was going to be seen. 2 was that I'm going to have a great time. And 3 was that I do under 3 hours. So I got a coach, and he was like, right, we're going to hit this and this and this. And we did all these things. I was in way better shape than London. But because of my goals, I was stopping and chatting to people. I was like, going to the drink stations and going, this isn't vodka. Getting the squishies from the SIS table, and somebody was filming me. I was like, just being an absolute but
just enjoying
fun,
enjoying the moment.
It. And I absolutely loved it. And it took me all the way back to the first one I did around the bays in the gorilla costume, where I absolutely enjoyed it.
But a marathon is hard. It's 42 kilometres. Why make it harder by wearing a costume?
Yeah.
Like, you could still enjoy it in running gear or Lycra.
Absolutely. So you can enjoy lots of things in Lycra. Where you got to take it off. Anyway. So it takes me back to the initial gorilla suit. And even talking about it, we're laughing. You're laughing, and you say, why? And as soon as I tell somebody I wore this costume, they're like, they laugh, and then they ask why. And I'm like, that's why. Because it makes you laugh. It makes you smile. It's stupid, but it's entertaining. And at the same time, it highlights disability. I mean, so does Marcel Haag and Suzuki and these other guys that come first and win, $100,000 when they come first, whatever. But there's no way I'm doing a marathon in an hour 20. It's just not happening. I don't have the passion. My playing to win is enjoyment. Their playing to win is to come first, because everyone's win looks different. Everyone's Everest is different, and mine is to have fun, enjoy it. And when people look at the chair, they say, "Yeah, well, it's stupidly hot. Why don't you do it in Lycra? Why don't you make it easy on yourself?" And I'm like, well, anyone can do that. What I do is dumb and stupid and it's insane, but it's also awesome and fun and enjoyable and people laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, but not anyone can even do it. Like the amount of people that end up doing a marathon is like 1%, I guess. And in terms of the disability community, I don't know. Like maybe it's still the same percentage, like 1%. But the percentage of people that would do it in a wheelchair and a costume, even slimmer. But it's cool. It feels like you're doing it for the enjoyment of others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you want to do. There's a whole series called the Abbott World Marathon Majors. So. London and New York are 2 of them, and now there's actually 5 others. There was 6, but now there's 5 others.
Yeah, because now we've got Sydney.
Yeah, so there's Sydney, Tokyo, Boston, Chicago, and Berlin. You want to do all of them?
Yeah. So that's what happened. I went to London, and the day before the race, there's the expo, and that's you've got to go and register and that sort of stuff. And I went there, and everyone was talking about stars, and I'm like, what? There's no famous people here. What are you on about? Like, I didn't get it. And then they tell me, well, you do 6 marathons and you get a 7th medal. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Sign me up. What is this? I'm in for stuff like a brown paper bag. I'm like a rubber band. I don't care what it is. The win is the win. I'll take it. And so they said, you do these 6 marathons around the world. I didn't actually calculate the fact that's like $50,000 because there's $8,500 basically for each one. And you get a 7th medal for free. But the 7th medal was pretty cool.
I've got one. I'm a 6-star finisher. It's massive.
No,
it's massive. I should have put it in today. It's a massive trinket, but it is very special. But you reflect on how much it cost you. It's like a $50,000.
You'd never get that on eBay, would you?
No. Realistically, like replacement cost is probably like $8. Yeah. I don't know.
I should just get one made and be like, look, I've done it.
Yeah. So when are you doing that? Over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So I worked out, as you know, then that there's an easy way of doing it is 2 a year because you got one at the beginning of the year, one at the end of the year. So we got London in April, and then we did New York in November. Then 2026, I got Tokyo in I think it's late March, and then Chicago, I think it is in November or October.
It's just before New York.
Yeah, and then the following year I'll do Boston. I think it is beginning of the year, and then Berlin at the end of the year. And then the following year, 2028, I'm sounding super boring now because it's all planned out. 2028, I'll do Sydney because then I can sign up for 7 and then do the 7. So then I'll do 7 marathons and have 9 medals. Yeah.
Sydney will be interesting. I've done that the last couple of years and it's been so hot. Like they start like 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning, but by 8 o'clock it's scorching. So I can't imagine what it's like in a gorilla suit.
Oh, I'm not sure what I wear because I had to adjust my costume for New York. So it's funny you talk about, different costumes. Okay, let me, again, I backpedal and it's easier to explain. They sent me an email after I'd fully paid for New York with Achilles, and they were a good bunch of people, don't get me wrong, and they said, oh, you can't do it in the squirrel suit because of this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason. And I talked to my coach about it, and he was like, well, I could just have my friend Roy meet you, like over the Verrazano Bridge, and you could just put it on and continue. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how that's going to go. But I took it as a challenge to meet their criteria. So I went to First Scene, the ones that gave me the squirrel suit, and Jo Pilkington is absolutely a legend. She actually paid her staff to help me adjust the squirrel suit. So now I've got 2 squirrel suits. I've got a nice slim fitting one and the puffy big one. So I've got one that just fits on like a race bike helmet, and it looks amazing. That was the one I wore from New York, and a very slim fitting, like furry chest. And they wouldn't let me wear the tail. But everyone was still yelling out, go squirrel. So I'm like, hey, it's all good. So long as I look like a squirrel, it's perfect. That's all I'm after.
Yeah. Okay, so that's some of the running stuff. The Sky Tower climb as well. You've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
So this is going up the stairs. So this is without your chair. This is you just sort of dragging yourself up?
Crawling up the stairs, yeah.
How many flights?
52 flights.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't like correcting people because I love the story anyway, but I did do it 5 times. And the 5th time is when I stopped, kind of by choice, but also because on the 34th floor, I broke my collarbone. It snapped. And like this is me, lifting up. I put my arms, and then my bum has touched every step. So I'd, bum on the step, and then I put my legs up.
Right, I was wondering how you did it.
down.
So you just sort of went backwards.
Yeah. It seemed to me to be the logical, easiest way of doing it.
You end up with a sore tailbone?
Again, lucky I've got this strap-on cushion. It's like a nappy, but it's a super good cushion, and that basically alleviated any pressure areas. And I'm not like jumping down. I'm just putting myself up and down and keeping everything routine. And you know what it's like with running. You have a process, and you just keep that process. And no matter what happens, you follow in line. You just keep doing it. So I did that, and on the 34th floor, this is the only time I trained as well. So I was donned. So I was wearing the fire gear, helmet, jacket, pants, and a tank. And it was the only year that I trained for the event. So I'd put on about another 30 kg. Again, made it harder for myself.
Oh, firefighter gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they do the challenge.
They do the challenge as well. But I couldn't do it donned and started because that's with the oxygen, and it just wouldn't have lasted. The fastest runners do it in like 9 minutes, and I was like, 47 minutes, I think is my fastest time. So yeah, I'm crawling up, and I get to 34th floor, and it feels a snap, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So, and everyone's like, why didn't you pull out? Why did you finish? And I'm like, well, if you don't finish, you don't get the T-shirt, and it's all about the T-shirt and the medal, isn't it? That's what it's about. So, yeah, I finished, and it totally popped out, and then I was on bed rest for 3 months.
How did it snap?
It was just
wear
pressure.
and tear, or
Yeah, just pressure. It just gave up. Normally, the collarbone is something that snaps when you fall. It's like your shock absorber. But this particular time, it was just through training, I guess, and just gave up and said, nah, and snap. Because I'm in a chair, I can't get dressed. I can't eat. I can't transfer. I can't drive. So breaking a collarbone is tantamount to breaking my back again. So I go on the bed rest. It's terrible.
That's pretty savage. It's pretty badass, eh? Like there's a lot of able-bodied people around that would struggle to do walk up the Sky Tower even with unlimited time, and there'd be a lot more people still that would be able to do it, but they'd need to pause numerous times on the way up to catch their breath. So to be able to not be able-bodied and be able to do that, it's incredible.
I managed to talk one other person into doing it, and because I'm going to say her name, Sarah Belgrave, she's amazing. Because she was the only other paraplegic to do it, she's the only female to do it, and I'm the only male to do it. And I dare say there's no other disabled person who has no use of their legs that wants to crawl up the Sky Tower, because why? Why would you do that?
Because it's there.
Exactly, Sir Edmund Hillary, because it's there.
Yeah. What about the triceps? Is it good for the triceps?
I don't know. Everything hurt afterwards.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And some of the other stuff you've done, we'll just barrel through these: skydiving, bungee jumping, rock climbing, demolition derbies, skiing, target shooting, axe throwing, car racing. You love racing your minis. I mean, all these things are things that most people won't do because they're not interested or because they're not into extreme sports or whatever. But for you to do them, I'm guessing there's an extra layer of red tape and BS to get through.
Oh. Yeah, there really is.
For most of those things.
The red tape is probably the second hardest. And again, the first hardest, and I'll take it back, is getting me out of the way. As soon as I took me out of the way, the picture years ago, I started to put up my hand and say yes to things. I said yes to things before someone had even finished. Oh, Lee, do you want it? Yes. Like going around Lake Taupo. Somebody said, oh, do you want to go? Yes. Okay, and then they bailed out and somebody else bailed out. And now it wasn't a team of 4, it was a team of 1. So I became the first solo wheelchair racer to push around Lake Taupo because I was committed in my head. God. I said, let's do it.
That's such a long way. It's like 160, 170 Ks, some very, very steep hills.
After 2 hours of no flat, then I come across the sign. It says Hātepe Hill ahead. And I'm like, what the hell was that? I've just done hills. So, but yeah, the BS, as you say, with things like the Motorsport New Zealand race licence, and no offence to them, they're concerned for safety, and they've got to be concerned with safety. They get fines. Somebody will ultimately be responsible at the end of the day. So they've got to look at how do we alleviate any possible issues in the future. So I had to get in my Mini, rip on the handbrake when the guy said stop, and then take my belts off and jump out of the car. And he's got to film it. Now this person is doing it for serious reasons, and here's me again. I'm my own worst enemy at times because I did this and I jumped out of the car and I had to do it within like 15 seconds or 30 seconds or so, and I'm rolling around on the ground going, "Oh, the invisible flame!" Trying to put myself out like Talladega Nights, the Will Ferrell scene. I didn't strip naked with my helmet on, but it was super funny, and he's just filming it, like bland faced, like it's in a nothing, like it happens every day.
Amazing. And the bungee jump, how does that work? Is that around the waist or just around the ankles? Or
we did it the umbilical in front to begin with. I've done it 3 times. Didn't want to do around the ankle just for fear of what could it do to my spine from them and from me. And then the other 2 I did from behind. And the weirdest, horriblest one I did was actually where it was in front of me, and I said, I'm going to wheelie off backwards. So it's falling. You know how you do a trust fall and people got to catch you? Imagine doing a trust fall, but you just keep going. It's the horriblest feeling. And I'm hanging on to this, and as I realised, I'm like, I could literally hang on to nothing. Holding onto this rope with the bungee is not going to save me. It's what's coming with me. Yeah. And it was horrible. Yeah, but good fun.
And outside of that, there's heaps of other stuff you do. You do volunteering stuff. You've done lots of disability advocacy work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like one of your passions, eh?
Yeah, it's a big thing for me. Parking. I know there's other people in the world who advocate things for like flights, wheelchairs on flights. And Sophie Morgan does a fantastic job. There's other people that have other areas of expertise where they're advocating for disability rights and making it normal. And the more they do that, the more normal it is. For me, I find parking a huge thing because as soon as you're in a chair and you want to get places, you've got to be able to get there and get out. And through doing this, I actually found, interestingly enough, not a single accessible car park in Auckland area, the whole of Auckland, so super city of Auckland, on public roads is up to code. Reason being, there is no code for public roads. The Building Code of Compliance, NZS 4121, is a building code of compliance, but it only relates to car parks in or around a building, not public roads. So the building code doesn't apply. And also the fact that if they make them wide enough and long enough for accessibility, it actually falls outside of the remit for them to, issue infringement notices or tow. So I'm like, why? So I'm still following that up. It's years of process, and it does take a lot of time, but it's not every day, all the time. It's on my mind when I drive around. I'm like looking at car parks, but it's just something that I do in the background. Just kind of passionate. Does it frustrate you? Fuck you off? Like, is it a compounding effect? Like, you just get more and more furious every time you come across it. When I was younger and very immature, I would slash tires with a penknife. And I would spray brake fluid on the cars, and I would smash windows. And I wasn't agitated or angry at all. But that was young me. That was young me. So don't park in accessible car parks. Stabby. But I've explained it because I've been on a breakfast show, and they said, should I confront people? And I said, no, never confront somebody. I've been threatened. I've been grabbed around the throat. Who are you, the parking police? I'll smash you. And at the end of the day, you're trying to kill out an ant colony one ant at a time, and you just can't do it. It's the idiom of folly. You just can't do it. You've got to go for the root of the nest. And the only way to do it is the jugular, which is your local councils, your MPs, Auckland Transport, whoever it is. And if it annoys you enough, do something about it. Be the change you want to see. Take action. Do something rather than just cry at home or moan about it to people. That doesn't change the world. That doesn't do anything at all. And so that's why I do it. Yeah, but it takes so much energy to stay with it. It does. And that's why I've channeled the energy from slashing tires to following up emails. from spraying brake fluid on cars to writing down diary notes and taking photos. And that's all it is channeling the energy into a different pathway. And instead of being angry, I let it go. I let it go, but I take a photo. And then I literally have about 4,000 photos of couriers, and I'm not bagging couriers because they have a bloody hard job, but then couriers don't follow up and say there's no courier parking or there's no loading zone. They just park in the accessible car park. And I get it because I'd probably do it too. So what are they doing to change? Nothing. So then I need to follow up and make the change. And then taxis do it. And I got asked on the breakfast show, it's like, who's more responsible? Is it an age? Is it a sex? Is it a race? I said, no, there's three people that do it. There's adolescent, ignorant, and arrogant. That's it. And that is across the board. And there is no change. So I can't go to the individuals. I have to go upline. I have to go to somebody bigger and say, well, you need to be able to find people on private car parks. You need a better way of finding infringement noticing people, breach noticing on public roads. There's got to be a better way of doing it. So it's just about me following up, me emailing, me making official complaints a lot, and just continuing.
That's really good. I love that thing, adolescent, ignorant, arrogant. I'm just trying to think which camp. I'm definitely not adolescent. What about if you don't think you're ignorant or arrogant, but it's just really, really raining and you're only going in for 2 minutes?
I think that falls into the arrogant camp. You know, just gotta say, because you're definitely not adolescent. Not that I'm judging, because we're the same age. You know? Yeah. Look, everyone's got a reason, and there has been a couple of times where you make eye contact or you see someone and they move out, and they park out. In fact, years ago, I remember saying it to one guy in the driver's seat, and he was like, oh, whatever. Anyway, and went inside the shop, and his mate in the passenger seat said, hey, dude, look, I'm so sorry. Look, I can't drive his car, but I'm really glad you said something, and I'll have it at him when he comes back. And I was like, that's cool. You know, that's creating social change. That's him helping his friend change. Because most of the time, and this is why I say don't go up to individuals, you've cornered someone. They've done wrong, and you've got, like playing hide and seek. You've caught them, and they're like, no, it wasn't me. What's your problem? And, they know they've been caught out. So it's like, look, just, don't do it.
Yeah. I think that applies. You're talking about in real life interactions, but it's the same as social media. Like, no one wants to be like berated or shouted at. The best thing you do is try and educate people, eh? Yeah. Rather than reason with them a little bit.
But even on social media education, how does that go? Happy face, angry face.
Okay, let's go back in time. Okay, so you're born in England.
Yeah.
And you moved to New Zealand when you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
What are your memories of the first 10 years?
Schooling. Schooling was very different. It was, and this is going back, a few years ago now. It'd be in
the 70s, late 70s.
Yeah. I was born in the 70s, so we came over here 85, 86. And back then, New Zealand was around about a 2-year gap lag. So the learning and the schooling that I had in England was very different to the schooling and the learning here. So I came over here and I'm not going to say I was like a god, but I knew everything. And so I was very lazy. But then that's been me all the way through schooling and still now. It's like, oh, yeah, I can do that or whatever. And continue on. If I don't need to learn it or I don't need to do it, I don't. I'm at school to eat lunch. That's it. And then continue.
What about teasing or bullying or anything like that? Because you must have stood out like a sore thumb, like being a kid with an English accent.
Absolutely. But
did you have the charm and the charisma that you've got now to sort of override that?
Yeah. I made some good friends. Actually a friend over from Australia at the moment. He's actually from primary school, and we made friends at primary school and we just continued on. And teasing is, I want to say, a natural form, like the child's natural chant. It's no one teaches them that. It's just innate. And after studying at Teachers Training College, you learn bullying is normal, but it's the level of bullying. And nowadays with social media and stuff and phones and things, It's 100% all the time, full on, and that's too much bullying for anyone to take. And I hate and despise that. And hate is a big word. It's like the C word, isn't it? But yeah, back in the day, you'd get bullied, but it wouldn't be all day, every day. It wouldn't be from the moment you turned up at school or left school, and it definitely wasn't after school, unless you saw those bullies.
Yeah, you'd get a reprieve. Okay. Your home was sort of a safe haven.
Yeah, or the bully was in another class, and you only saw them at lunchtime or playtime. But yeah, I got teased. It was what's the surname, worn. So it was, you're worn out and you're worn out pants because we had cut off jeans. I can't remember all the rest of the stuff. I know I got teased. I
think most people do. Most people do in primary school. Okay. Yes, I've heard you describe yourself as a happy kid with a big smile. I feel like that's the adult Lee Warren that I know as well.
Oh, thank you.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I still don't know what to do with my hands. But yeah, I keep them up here so people can see. Look, I'm not hiding cards and I'm not playing with myself. It is. But it's also a facade. It's an easy facade to have, and that's what I had in those first 5 years. Is the happy Lee, because you can't see underneath, and unless you ask, when you ask, hey, how you doing? Everyone says, oh, I'm good. And that one person that you ask, hey, how you doing? They go, well, actually, I've got a sore shoulder and, I've got a bowel problem and this happened yesterday and my dad died and, my dog got run over on the way here. They're like, whoa. I was just saying hello.
I was just being polite.
I was just, I didn't actually ask anything. But that's because we don't actually ask. We don't actually ask someone how they're doing and we don't mean it. We just want a brief, hey, you're good. Oh, good. And then we continue on. And that's my happy face.
Right.
And that's most people's happy face.
So it's like a mask for the outside world.
Yeah, and I've got to remember to take it off. And that's what I do now. Yeah. As an adult and as, 37 years in a chair, got to learn to be able to take it off. You can't wear it all the time. You can't be, and it's not fake, it's being nice. It's relatability. And I can't pretend to be that person all the time. No one is that person all the time. You know what it's like. You're switched on, you're here, you're now. And when you go home, you don't want to be switched on here and now. You want to relax. You have your gin and your cigar or whatever it is, your Havana, and you put your feet up. And you do nothing and you watch your Netflix. Because that's how some people chill out. And I take it off and I'll talk to my friends and be honest with them.
Yeah. When did you start working on that? Because I think it's a work on, isn't it? That vulnerability piece.
Yeah, vulnerability. That's the word. And it is an everyday thing. I take it off when I'm home. I tell my cats everything, and they're such good listeners. They're not really. They don't care. Feed me, I'm gone.
Well, you told me at the start of the podcast one of them's run away.
I shared a lot with Benny yesterday. So yeah, it started after those 5 years. So when I talk about the downhill spiral and being negative with other people and the abuse that a lot of people around me took, it was
from you,
from me, and it was my fault, and I only had me to blame. And then of course
you were just frustrated though, right?
Absolutely. But when you take that off and you look at yourself, and then I'm kicking myself and I'm punching myself because I'm an idiot and I've abused this person. So instead of just going, oh, well, I did wrong, I'll ring them up and say sorry, or I'll say sorry next time. It's like, no, I'm going to beat myself. I was literally my own worst enemy. I got in my way every step. I was tripping myself up. I was punching myself. I poked myself in the eye. I did everything wrong that I could. And it was only after I started to make some changes, and it was after the suicide that I came back from that I realized I've got to make changes. And again, I'm a slow learner, so it wasn't a sudden change. It took several years to actually start getting better. And one of the instrumental things, and people do say this, sport was huge. And it wasn't about going to the Paralympics, but being involved in sport and training meant that I couldn't hang out with the same people all the time. I could still see them occasionally, but I missed out on some parties, I missed out on some birthdays, I missed out on some seriously special events. But looking back on it, the good friends are still there because they understood. And stopping partying all the time meant that I stopped drinking and stopped smoking, stopped doing drugs, and that I had a new focus. And the new focus was, funnily enough, being fit. And 37 years in a chair, 50 years old, I'm pretty healthy considering. Got some shoulder niggles and stuff, but realistically, I'm pretty healthy.
Yeah, and to be fair, like some of those things we talked about before, like the runs, the skydiving, bungee jump, if you go to parties every weekend, some of them are special events, but generally they sort of roll into one. But these big sort of pinnacle events in your life, they sort of stand out. Yeah. Otherwise, all the years sort of roll into one. Okay, October 31st, 1989.
Ooh, why would you bring up that date?
Yeah. So it was an accident involving a 50cc scooter, like a Nifty 50 they were called back in the day?
Yeah. And it was actually the Nifty 50 as well. So for those that don't understand, anything under a 50cc range, you don't need a motorbike license. It's a car license, covered by a car license. And some friends and I, we acquired, liberated, borrowed, long-term loan without asking, a motorbike. But these were the friends I was hanging out with. The idle hands are the devil playthings, and we were smart enough to be idiots. And good people, but still we got into trouble. So we stole this motorbike. We couldn't get it going. It took a couple of days, and eventually we got it going. And we pulled a cord like a lawnmower and rode it up the streets. And of course, I didn't have a car license. I was 16 years old, and I didn't have the nous, the street smarts. I should never have been on a bike. In fact, the previous time I'd been on a motorbike was twice. I had only been on a motorbike twice previously, sorry. Once was when I was 7 in England at this place called St. Ovest, and you just ride around these tiny little mini motorbikes. I got to the first corner, hit the tyres, fell off, my foot got caught in the chain, hit the cog, bike got shut down, I went to hospital and got 6 stitches in my foot. Like, that gives you an idea of how bad I am on a motorbike. And the next time it was doubling with a friend, Kevin Goss, and so I wasn't riding. So really all I had to do was hang on to him and lean when he leaned. That was it. So this was the third time on a bike, and idiot. So I got probably, 200 metres up the road. I hit a curb. I remember thinking, oh no, I'm going to hit the curb. And I did. Of course, I tensed up like a twig. Little wheels hit the curb, went sideways. I went the other way, landed on a fence. Because I was all tensed up, it smashed 3 of my ribs. 2 of the ribs went in my left lung, which then started filling with blood. The shockwave smashed T12 vertebrae. And here I am laying on a fence. One lung's filled with blood. The other one is probably getting a quarter air because I'm leaning on a fence. And I'm unconscious. I was super lucky. Someone passing heard this kerfuffle, because it wasn't really an accident, and pulled me off the fence and laid me on the ground. In doing that, that movement would have been what bits of bone in the T12 that was now smashed would have damaged the spinal cord and lay me on the ground, but it saved my life. If he hadn't have pulled me off, I would have drowned in my own blood and suffocated. If the fence hadn't have been there, I would have fallen down a 30-foot drop and no one would have found me. Even my friends wouldn't have found me when they came looking for me, because you couldn't see down there. There was bushes and things. This is out in Langholm and Piha. It was pretty horrific. I remember laying in and out of consciousness. I remember being in the ambulance and saying to them, "Oh, I've never been in an ambulance before. Can you turn the sirens on?" And they're like, No, we can't turn the sirens on. Again, I asked the dumbest things. And they said,
"You're going to seize the opportunity."
When in Rome, go to the spuarium and the sexology place. So I asked them to turn the sirens on. And they said, "No, we can't. You've damaged your spine, and we don't know how bad it is. And if we put the sirens on, we drive fast, and we can't do that." And it didn't register with me. I was 60 years old. I haven't got a clue what's going on.
But you had no feeling or anything?
No.
But you didn't immediately panic and assume the worst?
No, not at all. But it just didn't register. When I've said several times I'm a slow learner, they would have had to have said it really in detail and given me pictures and boards and diagrams and drawn on a whiteboard. Some things I get and other things I don't. And if I've got no connection to it, it just doesn't make sense.
I suppose when you're 16, even if you've got no feeling from the neck down or the shoulders down or the nipples down, wherever it was, you just assume everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Someone's going to fix me.
Yeah, arm in a cast, it heals up, you're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So went into hospital. I remember having x-rays, holding my breath, somebody poking me in the side, and I couldn't work out why. Painkillers, they don't kill the pain. They're just pain I don't cares. Turns out what it was somebody who was actually knifing me in the side and then pushing a tube in there to allow the blood to come out of my lung so that then the lung could heal itself. And then the wires and diodes and things all over me, and mum on one side, dad on the other, and a doctor at the end of the bed. And he explains to me what's happened and says, you're never going to walk again.
So this is like hours after the accident?
Yeah.
This is the next day? Or
This is the next day. We've had a few operations, and it still didn't resonate with me. It didn't make any sense. I understand the words, but there's no connection to the words. There's no connection to a visualization of what it meant. You know, the rest of your life is going to be in a wheelchair. Do you understand? You're not going to be able to go to the beach. Stairs are going to be a problem, and all these sorts of issues just didn't register. And like you say, maybe on a subconscious level, I was thinking, oh, okay, for a while, you know, and then I'll be all right. You know, and then you go to the spine unit, you learn how to take care of yourself, and you learn how to get around in a chair, and it takes a long time, and then you go home, and then you try and continue on with life, and there's something gnawing away at your soul, at your spirit, and the subconscious level, and that was where I was for 5 years.
how traumatic was that day or that period for your parents?
Oh,
Were they putting on a
can't
brave face
imagine.
for you, or were they just like inconsolable?
My mum deals with things very well. She would have cried by herself with no one around, or she would have cried with good friends. She never would have shown any emotion in front of me. Dad was angry, and he blamed. He tried to blame somebody. He was asking all these questions to try and figure out who was to blame, who got the bike, who was driving the car, who took me there, so that he could blame somebody. And he did actually ask quite a few of my friends about it, and it turned out it was me. You know, the only person to blame was me. And he then had to process that because he couldn't get angry at me because I'm his son.
I suppose it's natural, like in things like this, you want a scapegoat, right?
Yeah,
How was your like mental health over this time?
horrendous. Like I say, I was my own worst enemy, beating myself up all the time because I did wrong things. One time I remember I was drunk. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning because that was my life. I was wearing these leather pants and the zip didn't work, and I wasn't wearing underwear because the more pressure sores, the more seams that you have on your pants and things, the more likely you are to get a pressure sore, and a pressure sore turns into a bruise, which then eats away at the tissue, and then you get septicemia and you die. But if you get a pressure sore, you then have to lay on your front, and it can cause weeks, months, if not an operation, and then years in hospital laying on your front. And I didn't want any of that. So I was trying to alleviate that. So I've got to lay some groundwork here because otherwise it sounds super bad, but it was. So I'm wearing these leather pants. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. I've got no underwear on. The zip's broken. And, of course, old Jolly Roger's hanging out there. But it's not that jolly. It's a cold day. And I met up with an old school friend, and I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? I remember having some stupid conversation, and she just wanted to get away. Whereas I was like, oh, yeah, nah, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until a friend told me later when we got back in the car and went back home, that you do realise, A, you're drunk, B, it's 11 in the morning, and C, you know, and I was like, oh, yeah, And because
you weren't aware that your penis was out?
No, it wasn't me like, woo.
Right, you weren't flashing.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was just an accident. So again, I beat myself up. My own worst enemy. I mean, why was I wearing the pants? Why didn't I have a safety clip? There's so many concerns that I would have for somebody like me if I met me now. I mean, firstly, I wouldn't want to be my friend because I was a dick. But yeah, there's how far have I come? You know, when I turn around and I look at myself, I'm like, wow, I was that guy, and then now I'm this guy. And you hear stories of somebody who was, you know, a murderer or a thief or whatever, and then now they're this person, and they turn their life around. Some people can, some people can't, and I'm super lucky. I'm privileged. I'm blessed with the people around me and the situations that have come up that have allowed me to, as I say, change very slowly, very painfully for some of my friends. But become the person I am and still become better every day.
I'm so pleased to hear about this funk part of your story? Because I don't know.
Okay.
No, because I sort of, I've known you for maybe 10 years, maybe longer, probably longer than that. And you've just always been like relentlessly like positive and upbeat. So I sort of imagined that's what you'd be like. You get the bad news at 16, and I just assumed, you'd bounce back fairly quickly. And, with that glass half full sort of optimism, just managed to find the good in this situation. So to hear that you had this period, which is perfectly understandable, it's kind of refreshing.
Thank you. I have met other people in chairs, though, and they have progressed through those 7 stages of grief or whatever it is very quickly. One guy I met literally 2 weeks. But that's
what I thought you'd be like.
Yeah, thank you. Hell no. It wasn't even 2 years. It was almost 2 decades.
I suppose that's a reflection on the person I know now.
Yeah, and also that face that you see, because I'm putting it on. I'm allowing it to come down now because of who we are and what we're doing now, and hopefully anyone that's watching this can relate. And that's what I want to be now, is more of a relatable person than just a fun person. I like being a mushroom, a fun guy. But I also like being real.
Yeah.
Because being real is more important than just being funny. And yeah, this other guy that I knew, 2 weeks, and I was jealous. Because I wasted years of my life coming to terms with it and getting better. He wasn't 100%, but he was a good 90% there. But because of who he was, he was a professional, still very young, but his processes and his adult ability, I mean, I'm still immature now, but his ability, his maturity level was such that he could process, work out, ask questions, understand, and move on from that.
Yeah. How old was he? Is he a bit older?
21, 20 or 21,
yes.
But still very young.
Yeah, quite a big difference though between 16 and 21, eh?
Yeah. But I wasn't. Still barely 30 now, as a 50-year-old.
So, what were the biggest surprises about suddenly being unable to walk?
Wow. When you say that, the first one that comes to mind is toileting. Because I could say all these cool things about, you've read The Game by Neil Strauss about peacocking. I was literally peacocking everywhere I went and everything I did, which was cool. But that's a secondary thing. The first thing was toileting, and it sucked. And that's the first thing you've got to deal with being in a chair. And again, depending on the spinal cord injury and where you're at and what level, some people deal with pain on a constant. And I'm super lucky that I don't have to deal with the pain, but I did have to deal with toileting. And to me, that was massive. Suddenly having no control over bowels and bladder. My body tells me when to go, but it's not the normal, like your body would tell you, and it's in English and you understand it. There's warning signs and there's a level of, when it gets to stage 10, at 1, you're like, you can put it off for a little while. No, it would be a whisper. I wouldn't know. There would be no warning signs, and then it's over. And I've already gone. Doesn't matter whether you're on a toilet. And that was horrible. And again, part of those 5 years and coming to terms with a lot of that situation was horrible.
And you're 16 as well.
Yeah.
You're navigating, being a teenager and the puberty years and just the confusion of hormones and everything else.
All you want to do is look good and get sex. I mean, sorry, get an education. Yeah. And then now you got to deal with, you got to get up, get ready and leave the house. And just as you're leaving the house, you shit yourself. So then you got to go back to square one. So now it takes you 2 hours, 3 hours to leave the house. And now you're late for it. So now you're frustrated and you're driving angry and you get to that place and maybe you got a speeding ticket on the way there as well. So now all these things compound, and like I say, everything was locked up in this little wheelchair box. And it's just so angry all the time because it was everything. Now I decompartmentalize. Now the wheelchair box is quite small, but it's still there. It's still a frustration. I can't do this, I can't reach that, and this would be easier if I couldn't. But it's still there. I can't ever get rid of it because I am in a chair. And it does be frustrating. I mean, it must be so frustrating being tall, said no one ever, apart from the tallest guy in the world maybe. But each of us have a thing. Wearing glasses, maybe I can't move one finger properly. It sounds so minuscule, but to that individual it'll be a thing. Somebody else maybe lost their wedding finger, which, again, quite minuscule, but if they're going to get married to them, that's massive. Everyone's got a thing, and it'll be their box, along with all the daily frustrations that we all have. Get out of my way. But yeah, it's just how I process, how I deal with it, and how I move on from it.
And the toiletry stuff now, that all good?
Now I'm 50, so there's other things going on. But there was a stage a few years ago where for a year it was horrible. It backpedaled all the way back to when I was in the spine unit, and even worse, really, because I just couldn't get my bowels. It wasn't even an IBS, but it was a similar, and I didn't know what was going to happen today. And it didn't matter what I ate. The body was just like, you know what, we'll do what we want, and it did. So I would, on average, for almost an entire year, have a bowel accident 3 times a week, on average, and that was pretty horrible. And it really took me back to understanding and processing and having to rely on people around me and not get angry, because it didn't matter how long it took. I had an explanation or a reason, and I had to tell people because I was late to this, or this happened. And getting angry doesn't fix it. Actually, I did some stand-up comedy, and one of the times I had a bowel accident, I was actually at a conference, and the toilet, I could go into this massively cool story. The outcome of it is that I started to remember it on purpose, and I started to smile while I was still in it, doing it and cleaning it and everything else. It was horrible. It's like that Daddy Daycare scene where he's looking around and he's like poo on the roof and stuff. It was horrid, but it's funny, and I'm sharing with you. It's comical, but I could tell you and it make you cry. But why? Why would I do that to myself? I didn't want to get angry anymore, and so I took some learning and some experience that I've had about some stand-up comedy, and it's like, I could tell this to people and make it funny. I could tell this story and evolve them in it, and now this experience isn't terrible, and they have some level of understanding and experience of it, even not firsthand, but then should that experience come to them or happen to someone around them, then maybe they'll smile and laugh or be able to share with somebody else. So.
Yeah, because humor's kind of another mask in a way, though, isn't it? Like a lot of comedians are like deeply sort of troubled, and they tell. When I had one of my first therapy sessions, I found I was sort of like telling personal stories as jokes. And the therapist just wasn't sitting there laughing, and I thought,
that was gold.
I've written these stories in books. These trust me, these are very, very funny stories. And the therapist was like, it's just not that funny. It's not that funny. This is your life, and it's not funny. But you can choose to, I don't know. There's a deep sadness beneath it, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But like a therapy session is very different to comedy. You want somebody to laugh. You don't really want your therapist to laugh.
Yeah, time and place.
Yeah, definitely time and place. But in sharing some of ourselves, and this is again me taking off the mask and being vulnerable. I feel sharing part of myself and part of my story with others makes me vulnerable. It also helps them understand. And if I don't share that, like I cut one of my toes. I couldn't feel it. I didn't know what was going on. I was just looking around for where this blood's coming from. I'm like, where's this blood coming from? And then I see the front of my toes all cut off, and I'm like, ooh, I'm glad I can't feel that. That would really hurt.
Pros and cons. So you've got no feeling from where?
It's kind of numb from the knees down.
Right.
So it's like pins and needles. I could put a foot in hot water and cold water and not know which is which.
Okay.
Like it'll be sending me signals saying, there's something going on, but I don't know which is which. I had a primary school kid once ask me, he goes, if I stab you in the leg, would you bleed? I'm like, firstly, move them away from sharp objects. And secondly, to answer your question, there is blood moving around my legs, because that was essentially what he wanted to know. And this is taking the questions from people as well, is what they're meaning, not the words. I had someone else ask me in Australia, what's it like being a cripple? I'm like, I could have taken offence to it. I don't, because I don't care. And I was just like, oh, it's just like walking around, but I do it sitting. And he was like, okay, and he walked off. He was drunk. It's just the same. All he wanted was an answer.
Yeah.
And he got an answer, and it was okay with him, and he moved on.
Well, that's a banned word, though, isn't it? The C word.
The irony is you can say everything right to the wrong person, and it's wrong. And you can say something wrong to the right person, and it's right. So cripple to me, when you look at terminology, not PC, look at terminology and the definition of a word. If I disable your car, I stop it working. Now, if I take one of your wheels off, I've crippled your car, but I've not disabled it. You can still drive it badly, but it would still move. And so the difference between the two, it's like, well, am I crippled or am I disabled? So I don't really care. I try and take off the PC terms because I'm not offended. But in this day and age, everyone's like, oh, you're offended. You can't say crazy. You can't say don't cut yourself to get rid of the pain. You can't say all these things. And I just say, look, I'm sorry. I'm not saying them in an offensive way. I don't mean to be offensive. I don't mean to be terrible. I try and watch my P's and Q's, but I really can't. And just because I'm in a chair doesn't make it better. If anything, it probably makes it worse, which is why I apologize so much. But I do it on purpose. And like I say, I try and get better on a daily. I try and look at, because I did have somebody online actually make a comment of one of the videos I'd done and said, you can't say that. That's really offensive. And I was like, what? Rather than getting angry at him, I re-looked at it and was like, that's offensive? Okay, well, I'm learning. And I went back to him and said, thanks, cheers for letting me know. I might do it again by accident, but it won't be on purpose, and at least then I'll know what I've done. Again, that's why we have boundaries. That's why we have curbs to keep us on the road, the straight and narrow. And if somebody wasn't telling me I was doing something wrong, I wouldn't know.
This is good stuff.
Oh, good, because I'm thinking we've got another 3 hours to go. This is
no, it's really, really interesting stuff. God, you got such a great attitude. So so you get out of hospital in the spinal unit, then you go back home. Do you live? You're 16, so you're living at the family home. Do your parents have to modify the house?
Yeah.
And their vehicle, need a new vehicle, same vehicle as everything.
Again, didn't have a license at the time, so that was a whole new thing. But I had to learn how to drive, and I thought, okay, how do I drive? Steering wheel, accelerator, brake. Okay, got it. I can drive. And then I had to do a driving test, and I got my driver's license, and it actually ended up being all right. But for the house, I was actually incredibly lucky. Pardon me. In a very quick turnaround, I think it was only about 2 months, we managed to get a house modified, and then us moving and leaving the spinal unit. Nowadays, like in the now, let's say somebody left the spinal unit, it would be maybe 6 months, possibly 2 years. It all depends on the modifications they need, their house, approval. Are they MOH, which is the Ministry of Health, which is the government system, or are they under ACC, which is basically your government insurer, as to how fast people work and what they're allowed. Yeah, I had to learn how to drive, but I didn't have an understanding of how to drive with my legs anyway. And the first time I actually went for a drive with somebody, a guy called Wallow actually, who was driving with a walking stick in his XC Falcon. I always remember freaking out because he's using a stick, he's not using his legs. And I'm like, oh wait, I'll be doing the same thing. I mean, obviously not with a walking stick, but he was driving. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to be doing the same thing, basically. And even now when I get in the car with another wheelchair person, it seems so dumb because it's exactly what I do. I freak out because they're not using their legs, because we're so attuned to what we see and looking outwardly, not looking inwardly at ourselves. And it takes me a second to bite my tongue and just, I do exactly the same thing. But it's all about control, and we're used to seeing the control done with 4 limbs, and when it's only done with 2 limbs, suddenly it's like, it's a freak out.
Yeah, you're so quick at it now. Like you pulled into PodLab today for the podcast, and you just have the chair collapsed on the passenger seat, fling that out on the ground, and then put yourself in it. And yeah.
Well, I get
maybe
a new
like
chair every
30
month,
30
so
seconds.
chuck it out, yeah. I get a new chair every month, so I just chuck it out, get a new chair. It's a throwaway thing.
No, but it's like under a minute though, from the time you park to the time you're out.
there's two things to that. One is that you don't want to take time in the rain, so you learn how to do it quite quickly. And you also kind of don't want to damage your car because then you're driving around the scratched and damaged and dented car. And the other thing is that I've got to be careful of my shoulders because I'm doing this every day. When I was a sales rep, I was pulling my chair in and out of the car. I think I counted once 30 times in one day. It's a lot of transfers. But again, you do that same routine thing. Yes, it's a wear and tear, but it also builds up strength and technique. So it's kind of a horrible catch-22. So now I'm 50 and I've been in chair for several years. I'm looking at a thing called an Abbey loader where the boot opens up and this mechanical arm comes around and grabs the chair and puts it in the boot. And so now I have no boot, but I also don't have to worry about putting the chair in the car. That's something I'm looking at after a shoulder operation in 3 or 4 years, after I do some more marathons, because I'm not allowed the surgery before I do more marathons.
Is that right? Is there going to be like a line in the sand, like, get this out of your system and then we'll...
And then we're done. Because I talked to the surgeon and said, so, I'm going to get the surgery this year. It was all planned for March the 18th this year. I'm going to do a few more marathons and that. And he was like, so tell me again. And I explained to him and he goes, no, that's not a good idea. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but most of the shit you've done is not a good idea.
No.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
But I take the pain and the fact that I'm going to be on bed rest for 6 months. Minimum 6, probably more likely 9-month recovery. And now think to yourself, could you deal with 3 to 6 months of being at home, mostly on bed rest? No. Do it twice? Okay, maybe 3 times. And you're like, whoa, let's just do it once. Because if I did this shoulder this year, which I could do, that's the recovery. And then I'll have to do this one at the end of the marathon. And then I might need this one done again a few years after that. It's like, well, let's do both and become a T-Rex. I think of Deadpool. The T-Rex was the most feared creature of all the animals. So, and get it done once and then forget about it and move on.
Yeah. So back to when you're 16.
Yeah.
So your friends at the time, your young hoodlum friends, the Scooter Gang, were they like supportive and inclusive, or did
they were so supportive, Dom.
Yeah. Was it survivor guilt, do you think, in a way?
No, because the biggest advocate, the biggest friend, the one that was forcing me to go, I don't think he asked me if I wanted to go to the beach the first time I went to the beach. He just said, we're going to the beach. And they came in the cars, whatever they were, the EH Holdens and the XC Falcon, probably the Escort that was stolen. And we went to the beach and we went on the sand. And it was just, we're going. And he was like the leader of the gang or the group leader. And it wasn't really a gang, it was just a group of us. And he was just, we're going places, we're doing things. Lee was part of the group, he still was part of the group, and off you come, and we did it. And I remember that first trip to the beach, and it was pretty sucky, but it was also awesome. It was making me go places and doing the things that I didn't want to do without question. I remember sitting there on the sand and watching them play in my chair and getting pushed out and taking it in there was salt water and the chair seized up and we had to throw it away. It was worth like $1,000 back in the day. It was horrendous. But it's laughing, see, and it was doing those things that made it normal. If we're laughing, it's normal. When we're not laughing, something's wrong. And when you acknowledge something wrong all the time, you're feeling pain all the time and it hurts all the time. And you can't hurt all the time. You can't laugh all the time. And that takes me Robin Williams. But you've got to share. You've got to take the mask off. You've got to be real. And that's what I'm all about now. And I don't want to cry, but I do. It does take me back. It does take me back to that time where everything hurt. Getting up in the morning hurt. Going places hurt.
Physically or emotionally or both?
Emotionally. I didn't have any pain apart from internal. Again, because I was in my way. If I wasn't beating myself up, I was worried what other people were saying about me. One incident, I had a woman ask me if I needed help getting out of the car. Probably a lovely old lady. I remember swearing at her and yelling at her saying, I don't need help. What if I was drunk? Was I drunk? Would you still help me? You know, fuck off. And she probably never offered help again. And again, I'd beat myself up later on that day and say, I should have done this and I could have done that and what I'd done differently, because I was still angry. I was angry at everyone, not accepting help. It's not to say I accept help now, but now I'll let someone down easy and say, thank you so much for offering. I'm all right. Or can you hold this and make it take longer? But then they'll offer somebody else. And this other person might not be able to ask for help. They might be too ignorant. It might be too early on in their wheelchair spinal cord injury journey or whatever it is that they can't. And somebody needs to offer help. When you push me up the ramp, I could have pushed the whole way, and I wasn't like, hey, don't touch me. I was like, he's giving me a bit of a turbo push. Look at that. And you helped me up. That wasn't offensive, but some people would take it that way, as the word cripple and all these sorts of things. It's all about where the person's at and how they take things. I'm not a PC person. I don't worry about somebody trying to help me. I've been dropped by airlines. And
what do you mean?
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
No, we don't.
Emirates. But I didn't say the name. You know, I was coughing. Emirates.
It was a cough. It just sounded like
it just sounded like that. But
what do you mean they dropped you?
Yeah. Are the brakes on? Yes. What you mean is no, because here I am on the floor. Yeah, they dropped me. And it's then you send an email saying, hey, look, this happened. It takes 4 months, you get a reply, and they say, oh, we talked to our crew and there's nothing wrong and that didn't happen and you never told us there was a problem. So, hey, we'll see you again on another flight. And I'm like, yeah, no, never. And I put it down to training, understanding. There's a culture difference. Other airlines I've got on and they've said, oh, your seat's just 2 steps. And I'm like, well, yeah. And they're like, no, it's just two steps. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. And they're like, oh, but if you can just stand up, we help you. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And years of experience of travel have taught me that they're not being offensive. They're not doing it on purpose. It's their understanding of disability for them is somebody in a chair that can't mobilize very well. Not can't mobilize at all. Their understanding is it's hard, not impossible. Whereas for me, yeah, unless I'm floating, it's not happening. And I used to get offended by that. And now I'm just like, no, like you need to understand that I actually can't walk at all. There's no point yelling at someone and there's no point trying to educate them, you know, and laying down the law and then pulling out some Google Maps and explaining on a scale of, you know, spinal cord injuries and where nerve endings go and how muscles work. It's just very simply just saying, I don't work the way you think I do. And that, yeah, it's not really offensive, but look, it's not happening. And then hoping that the next time they come across somebody else, that they'll have a little bit more knowledge base or experience to draw on, that they might say things differently. Because that next person might just mouth off and explode at them for some reason.
So, yeah, so you had that angry period. Do we call them the self-pity years? What do we...
Ooh, self-pity. Self-deprecating, annoying, angry. You can call them many names, and any name you put on it is true.
What was the turning point? Because you were quite late to discovering sport, hey? That took you like 11 years, so you're like late 20s?
So, yeah, late 20s. I mean, that's like what... That's almost 80 years old in like rugby terms, isn't it? Because there were tennis like 36 years old. It's, oh my gosh, he's so old, still playing tennis. No, she's 13. She should be. Yeah, there's the progression of breaking my back, the horrible times, and then the suicide, and then that was the turning point. The slow learning side of it was I didn't try again. But that was when I got as low as I could possibly get. And I say that in the way of that it was me getting me low and there wasn't anyone else to blame. If I had have succeeded, if I had have died, there wasn't anyone else to blame. And regardless of what I had wrote, because I think I wrote a suicide note.
What do you mean you think?
I think, because I don't know. I ripped all that stuff up. I got rid of stuff. I mean, I blamed all these other things, and I think there was a diary. I think I wrote something. I don't know. But whatever I wrote, I can look back on it now and honestly say it didn't matter because I was the one to blame. Even if I said, oh, it was my mum's fault, or it was my dad's fault, or it was this friend and they did this, or I wrote all this list of these people have hurt me. It's all bollocks because it's all me. It's all internal. I made the choice, and I made the choice because of my decisions and what was going on in my head. And yeah.
So why was the suicide attempt a turning point? Was it like did you wake up and sort of have this euphoric moment where you were so lucky that you survived, or was it just seeing the hurt that you'd caused your loved ones? Or
Again, slow learning. I wish I could say that, Dom. I wish I could say that I woke up the next day and everything was fine.
This is my second chance. I'm not going to squander it.
Well, we'll see. Like, don't you get 3 lives? I put in my 20 cents. What? Yeah. No, I woke up the next day and they gave me a pill. And then I didn't really question it. And yeah, it evolved. The first 3 days, I think, were a blur. I did find out they didn't pump my stomach because the sleeping pills I'd taken were actually so pathetic that they didn't pump my stomach. And I said, you should have. I said, you should do it to anyone because I don't know if you've ever gone through this. I'm assuming you haven't. But anyone that has gone through a stomach pump, the sucking out of everything in your stomach. So that's the acids, the lining. So you're in so much pain. You feel the sickest you have ever been in your life, and it doesn't go away quickly. That to me is something that is almost punishment that needs to be done to somebody that has tried to do it and not succeeded. It's like, hey, this is what's going to happen when you live. But they didn't. But I did take these happy pills. I don't even remember what they were called, for a couple of days. And then I questioned it. I was like, why am I taking these? And they were like, oh, this is to help you chemical imbalance, rah, rah. And I'm like, well, how long am I take them for? And they're like, oh, like this is long term. And I'm like, well, what if I forget? What if I miss one? What if I skip a few? What if I travel and I haven't taken any with me? Oh, don't. And I'm like, well, I don't like that idea. How about I just don't take them? And they're like, oh, what? What? And it kind of freaked them out. Like, people don't say that. You know, you've had a suicide attempt. You know, we've got to try and it's like, well, it's not Band-Aid. This is something, now you're giving me a crutch and you're saying I'm going to have to keep using this crutch on a daily basis. So I was at least smart enough to say no to that. I've got to fix myself, not take this pill. And then I'm pretty sure it was the same day I was sitting looking, I was in Invercargill Hospital, and I was watching the buildings and in the smoking area. And this lady next to me was having an argument with herself about not giving herself a cigarette outwardly. And that was when I realized, yeah, I'm pretty normal. That's not normal. I'm normal. Normal as I can be. And I need to get out of here and get back home. I need to get myself fixed, and I need to do differently to what I've done to get here. I need to share with people because I realized I was wearing a clown mask and I just didn't take it off. It just sat on. I was in the Squid Games and the mask was on the whole time. And I need to take it off, and I need to share with people. I still didn't go to therapy. I felt that if I needed to share, I needed to share with friends so they understood. And I now understand therapy is a bit different because the therapist listens to you. They don't go, oh, yeah, I had a friend, Jim, and blah, 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 and start telling you their stories. The therapist actually helps you unpack yourself. And that's why I enjoy going to therapy now, because I can share, and they don't try and give me an idiom or an analogy or recycle it back to me. They just try and get to the root so I can get it out of me, understand it, and then put it back away nicely and in a uniform or Lego brick way, rather than it just springs out wherever all the time. So I shared with friends and it helped, but it wasn't until I actually got proper help, which was, again, several years later, that I could see some of the things I was doing.
So where are we at now when you started therapy? Like 30s, 40s?
50s?
Really? Just recently?
I did.
We're slow learners.
Very slow learners.
You and me both.
When I actually, I was at uni studying for teachers training college. Yeah, very slow learners. But we take it. But you can't lead a horse to water and force it to drink. We're ready when we're ready, right? Like everything else in the world. When it's time, it's time. And you know, so I was at teachers training college, and this girl broke up with me. I actually nicknamed her Red Flags because everything about her was a red flag. She was crazy, but fucking hot. She even got her tits done while we were together. Oh, they were great tits. That she was wonderful, but also terrible, like horrendous. She was still seeing her ex that she slept with while she was married. She was still seeing her ex-husband, but she was still married to him. She was still, there was horrible things. Anyway, so eventually we broke up, which was probably the best thing for me after 2 years of just terrible times. And I saw a therapist. I thought, I'm feeling low. And I realized that because one day I was cleaning my car and cleaning out the garage so that when I died, everything would be nice and ready. And I thought, this is not where I want to be. And I'm thinking seriously about something I don't want to be thinking about. I'm 0.5 away from zero, and I don't want to reach zero. So I went to therapy. That was I was late 30s, and I saw a guy and chatted with him because I didn't want to see a girl because I knew I'd just try and hit on her. So I saw a guy, and then I could see him as a father figure and as a friend and as a mate and open up and share, and I did, and he said after the first session he said everything you're doing is what I would tell you. You're reading books, you're writing down in your diary how you feel at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. You're writing down your thoughts through the day. He said, I almost can't share anything differently with you. I could tell you maybe another couple of books that you could read. But he said, everything you're doing is on a daily. You're not thinking about next week, next month, next year. You're not trying to make massive plans. You just, can I get through today? And if I can get through today, good. And then tomorrow I wake up and can I get through today? And then making it through so that the days are better. One of my takeaways from that was reflection and reflecting on specifics of good things. And those good things, those good nuggets, even one was enough to say that was a good day. And then I moved forward. I only saw him, I think, 6 times. And that was enough to, okay, I'm not cleaning my car now.
Just gives you different tools and different ways of framing things. But what you're talking about there, it just sounds like practicing gratitude.
Yeah.
And when I find like when you start doing that, when you start like taking a mental stock take of all the things you've got to be grateful for, it becomes easier to find them. And little things that you might just do on autopilot, like go and buy a $6 coffee and drink it without even thinking about it while you're scrolling on your phone. Yeah. If you actually spend a moment to be mindful about it, you actually really enjoy it. But you, so therapy's helpful, but that came much later. So, you lose the ability to walk at 16. You're a brat for many years afterwards. Then there's the suicide attempt, and then that's a major life or attitude pivot. Yeah. So how did that look? How did you realize you needed to do a full 180? Or where did you begin?
It was beginning by coming back to life and knowing what I was doing was wrong. You what's that idiom, the analogy of do the same things, expect a different result, you know?
Yeah, it's the definition of madness.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew what I had done wasn't working because it had led me to that path, that point in my life. And I knew enough to know that I just don't want to do that again. So it was, I need to do something different. What that different was, how it looked, that was so far away, I didn't know. Again, I'm sure there's so many people that have these great analogies of doing this and doing that, and I did this and I planned that and I had this year ahead, and I'm just like, I'm a simple man. I can barely think of tomorrow, let alone next year. And then I'm doing the Abbott 6 stars, you know, because now I plan, and no matter how sad I get, no matter what's happening in my daily life, well, I've planned this. I can't not do that. Or, well, I haven't got any debt. So, you know, I'm not that bad, but then I haven't got a house, but then I haven't got any debt. I haven't got this, no, but I have got that. And like you said, being gracious and looking back and thankful for different areas of my life of things that I do have. I mean, thanks for reminding me I haven't got a partner, Dom, but whatever.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. So the dating.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I'm single. Cheers. Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, after this podcast comes out, maybe there'll be some people sliding in your DMs.
Ladies, where's the cameras? Yeah. Pow. Least single.
That camera.
Yeah, that one. Single and ready to mingle. No, that sounds terrible. Doesn't it?
So navigating dating and relationships when you're had you had a proper girlfriend pre-accident?
Proper girlfriend. I'd had sex twice. That was it. I remember riding home on my push bike actually after the first time I had sex in the tree hut at One Tree Hill. And funny you should ask. And riding home thinking, wanking was way better than sex. It's got to get better. And then but I've had sex. Ha ha.
I'm sure your partner was thinking much the same thing.
No. That was a random girl I met on the bus. She wasn't my partner. She was random.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But good times. I smell like strawberry jam. Anyway, it was the girl I was kind of seeing at the time when I broke my back. I broke up with her. I was an angry little shit. And because I was in hospital, again, I was in my own way. I thought she wouldn't want to date somebody in a chair. I got angry at her, yelled at her and said, whatever. And I either made her, I can't remember the exact way it turned out, I either made her break up with me or I broke it off with her in a very angry way. That's it, done. Like not even friends. And she was a really nice girl, very sad, very sad. And again, that was me. And several relationships I had after being in a chair. Angry Lee, what a dick. I'd look back at me and think, some of those girls would have been wonderful wives. They would have been great mothers. They would have been my best friends for the rest of my life. And yet I was a dick. I cheated on a couple of girls, to be quite frank and honest. A couple of them cheated on me. I was in a terrible place. And sometimes the relationships just fell apart because I wanted something different. And so I just broke up with them and then went a different way and then saw somebody else and went with somebody else. And then I look back and think there's at least 5 women I could say quite comfortably would have been the best for me now and would have been the best for me from then to now. Marriage, even if we didn't have kids, but I would have gone in a completely different direction. I'd be a different person.
Yeah, hindsight's a funny thing. You have to be ready though, eh? You had to grow into the person you are now.
Yeah.
And everything. So you've never been married?
No. I think I've been engaged 3 times. If you can count, if you can count a burger ring, because I hadn't actually got a real ring. Yeah.
That one was doomed.
That was doomed. But the last one was really nice. I got a friend's house and, I had Bruno Mars playing, getting married, and it was really nice, and gave her a ring. I had roses on the ground, all this nice stuff. And then 2 months later, she rings me up and says, yeah, no, it's not working. Keeps the ring and fucks off. And I'm like, you bitch. Anyway, that took me 3 years to actually get over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up as well.
Tough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, no. It's relationships and they happen. And I could have either have jumped onto the next one and not learnt anything, or took a step back like I did and start reassessing my values, what I want, where do I want to go. And from then, that's when I've started to do a bunch of things for myself. Keep myself happy, keep myself active, and eventually something will come up. Someone.
Yeah, I mean, the right person will come along when the time's right. What about and tell me to piss off if you don't want to answer this, but in terms of sexual activity when you're disabled in the way you are?
600 an hour is a lot to pay, but you get what you get.
Does everything function normally, or do you have erogenous zones, or?
Yeah, look, if you could just everyone's different, much like sexual preferences, and I won't go into naming a few of them, but that's very different as well. Mine is, again, with the touching and the feeling. I'm very touchy-feely. I enjoy physical contact. I enjoy kissing. I enjoy hugging. I enjoy all the things that make a relationship a relationship. There are other guys that I know and girls who don't like all of the things that I like. They like different things. There's a story of one guy I know who couldn't really get arousal with his partner until they tried things that they weren't doing prior to him breaking his neck. So she started dressing up, and it actually helped their sexual relationship, actually helped their relationship as well, because you've got to remember the two sides to the relationship. Yeah. There's the physical, the sexual side, as well as the normal, everyday friendship side. And you've got to have a very strong, I believe you've got to have a very strong friendship to allow for everything else to blossom and continue on as well. But for me personally, yeah, it's hard. It was harder at the beginning because I felt I was different. And again, me getting in the way of me, when I got out of the way, that stopped being a problem. I don't know if the girls had a problem with it, but no one ever told me. But I thought it was a serious problem.
There's so many good insights here. The main one is not, and it's a recurring theme, is just not to get in the way of yourself. You do some keynote speaking and stuff. Is this one of the sort of like key messages that you try and drive home?
This is a keynote speak right here, and you're all paying. It's a TED talk. Well, it's a Dom talk. Yeah. It varies. Yeah, it varies because again, it's having, like comedy, it's having the edges for somebody to grasp onto. And if the theme is cars, then I would angle a lot of what I talked about to be about cars, or the direction of cars, or how I've had over 100 cars, or because I have, or something that's going to give them those edges. If it was about relationships, I would form most of it to be about the relationship side. But you've done public speaking as well, so you know that.
Okay, well, for anyone that's like facing their own massive adversity, like right now, listening to this, whatever that may be, like what sort of advice could you offer? What would you say?
The most simplest thing, I mean, obviously that take home of get out of your own way, but just say yes to stuff. Saying yes to things, and even before you know what it is, obviously positive, not, take this. But, you've got to look at the consequences, and if they're going to be positive consequences, and yeah, it's going to be a challenge, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be good. And the outcome is going to be something great. And then you got a cool story. Remember that time I set fire to my hand? No. You remember that time you did London Marathon and you were told off and told you couldn't do the squirrel sit, and flew the other side of the world and they dropped you and you did this, and it makes a great story. No great story ever started with where everything went perfectly and I had a salad. No, it was, hey, I had a beer, hold my beer, I'm going to do, and then a great story unfolds.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about earlier. Like if you want to be a partier and you just go to parties every weekend, there will be the occasional standout moment, but generally the weekends will roll into one. But if you do these like pinnacle events, like you're doing, and these fun, out of the box things, it just makes life more interesting. Yeah. If you could speak to the Lee Warren of 1989, just after the accident, what words of encouragement would you share with him?
He wouldn't listen. He's a dick.
Dude, fuck off.
He would.
Fuck off, old man.
Yeah. Well, the fuck do you know? Because he wouldn't want to know anything about me. I could wear a shirt saying all the things I've done. It's like, fuck his shirt. Fuck off. Yeah. It's tough because I would have to befriend me first. And it wouldn't be what I would say to the young me. It would be what he saw. He would have to see the things that he wanted to be to then want to do the things that I do, to be him, not to be me. I remember a guy I actually did look at in the spine unit and wanted to be like. He had this terrible mullet with blonded hair. Looking back on it, it was horrendous. But I wanted to be who he was, not him. He had the cool XW Falcon. He had, it was called the Pussy Posse, it had the sticker on the back of it. It was terrible.
Hasn't aged well.
Oh, I know. Neither is his mullet. But he was he didn't care about people, what they saw, what they thought about him. He didn't care about how he dressed. He was him. So I wanted to be him. But this is also 16-year-old me. And when you go back to the 80s, that's coolness. He was the John Bon Jovi, for lack of a better term. And I would have to almost be that guy for younger 1990 Lee to listen to me. And even then, I don't think he'd listen very well.
Oh, how long was it before you started dreaming as your actual state?
Oh, yeah.
So I heard
That's weird.
I read a podcast about this, and apparently it can take some people years, but when you start dreaming yourself as you are, that's when you've finally accepted it.
It's funny you say it, because even now I still can dream I'm in a chair and dream I'm walking. Dreaming I'm flying, dreaming I'm naked. Got all those kind of cool dreams. Appropriately naked.
What is that? Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm not just rolling around in your chair with your wang hanging down.
Yeah. Woo! No, not like that.
No more leather pants.
And sober. Yeah, I don't know. It's a dream. And a lot of the dreams nowadays are where I'm in a chair, but I can walk, but it's really hard. And it sounds so dumb. It's like it's a dream. I can literally do whatever I want. And I know that because sometimes it's a lucid dream and I can change the dream and do things in the dream. And yet still I can walk, but it's hard. So it's not I just walk or I'm just in a chair. In fact, I can't remember a dream where I was just in a chair. I probably have. But yeah, most of the dreams that I remember, and especially even later ones, dreaming and walking is hard. So I'll get up to do something, but it's really tough to walk over there and then come back and then, continue on.
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah.
So interesting. Do you hold like a space, even like a tiny space in your heart, that during your lifetime, like some medical advancements or technological advancements will come along that would allow you to walk again?
Yeah. So I was involved with this company called Rex Bionics. And unfortunately, they've shut down now. But amazing group of people that started this robotic exoskeleton. And I was lucky enough, I think it was about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I was in an 8th century castle in Bayona, Spain, walking in an exoskeleton using a skull cap that took my messages of trying to walk and sent them Bluetooth to a computer that analog, digitized, and then sent a signal to the exoskeleton to walk. I mean, how cool is that?
My God, that's
and
badass.
That's the future. Yeah. I mean, it's like the wrong trousers, like all over the place. Wallace and Gromit. But it's, some people really hold their breath for it. I'm more of a Christopher Reeve believer, where, hey, look, I'll help a situation, I'll do whatever it takes to help the progression. Do I want an injection where there's a 50-50 chance of me getting worse or walking again? No. Do I do it 80-20? No. 90-10? Yeah, you're getting close. Because do I want to be worse? No, I don't want to be worse. I've come to terms with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing, that I don't want to be worse than where I'm at. And there's other people who, when I say holding their breath, they're not sitting there literally waiting for their doing things like $30,000, $40,000 stem cell research advancement injections every month or 2 or 6 or whatever. And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort, a lot of rehab, but that's their journey. That's cool. If it helps them come to terms and it helps them get where they're going, and maybe they're walking, that's fantastic. Would they have done it without the injections? I don't know. But for them, there's no way they would have worked without it, and that's done, and it's fantastic. For me, I did try that earlier on, but then I didn't give it 100%. I went as far as to somebody saying, well, you know, you're not going to be a functional walker in these legs. I said, what do you mean? And they're like, well, look at how long it takes you to get a few steps. You've done great balance, and in a very short space of time, you've done X, Y, Z. They said, but you've got to put these on. You've got to get in and out of the car. You're not going to walk around the supermarket with them. Why are you doing this? And I was like, well, that's it, done. I'm out then. Drop the mic. I'm because it's the why, it's the goal, it's the reason, it's the to what end. And that's what I do all the time now is like coming here with you. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. It's going to be fun. I'm just content. I'm not talent. but it's going to be entertaining, and I'm going to get something out of it as much as you are. And hopefully people watching, listening, whatever, are going to get something as well. And that's why I'm doing it. It's not a personal goal. I'm not getting paid much. It's only a couple $100, isn't it, to be here? Is it?
Hey guys, can we wrap up a easy card for Lee? He wants payment.
That guy.
yeah,
So it's about others.
Yeah. Well, sorry if this has been less fun than what you hoped for. I found it really inspiring.
Thank you.
And interesting and informative, and I've got a lot out of it, and I'm sure a lot of other people will too. But in terms of lols, I don't know, it's probably been on the lighter side than what you imagined.
It's again, the prep that I did for the show was incredible.
Well, you did ask me when we were DMing. You said, "Oh, what do I need to prep?" And I'm like, "You just turn up. I'll do the heavy lifting."
So I'm totally drunk, and it's made it a lot easier. Drunk on the way here, I was quickly, I've got to scull this, driving. No, you've done all the prep, you've done all the questions, and it's been phenomenally easy. Thank you so much.
You've made a few alcohol jokes. What's your relationship like with alcohol these days?
Oh, these days is fantastic. It never used to be. Again, people, through the Bachelor of Education, I learned that a lot of learning goes on with parrots. And children are parrots. They learn through watching and listening, not what you teach them. They're not cats and dogs, they're parrots. And they say things at the most inappropriate time that you've said ages ago. And they know it's inappropriate, and they're just like a tree falls down and it's been cut down, and this 4-year-old says, "Oh, fuck," and it's like, it's actually perfectly appropriate, but it's also not appropriate. And that's what I've learned is that through what I can do and teaching and learning and taking away, if I can take something away and somebody else can have a takeaway, then that's fantastic. Coming here, the drinking jokes, jokes aside, my father was an alcoholic. He was a drug user, and that helped me to a degree get involved in drugs very early on, and abuse them as well. But then that also helped me move through that to the other end. And I drink on occasion now. In fact, last year I can probably count on, it was my hands, fingers and toes, how many times I touched alcohol in the whole year.
Right.
Because unless there's a celebration, like you say, that party every weekend, unless there's a celebration or reason, why would I do it? I've got alcohol at home in the cupboard, and I think, God, as a 16-year-old, that wouldn't last a weekend. But it's out there for ages because there's just not a good enough reason. And if there's a good enough reason, I'll touch it and I'll drink it. Yeah.
Oh, if you're drinking 20 times a year, then it's not even a thing in your life.
No.
I would say.
I make jokes because I can.
Yeah.
If it offends people, I'm absolutely sorry about that, and I'm sorry about lots of things I say and do. But I don't do it to offend people. I say it because it doesn't hold me. It doesn't hold a place in my heart that it tears me up inside. Even talking about suicide, the only reason why I don't bring up some things is because it does for somebody else. And it does hold a place for somebody else. And it does hurt them when they hear about it. And I wouldn't want to do that on purpose for somebody else.
I reckon that's a good place to. Is there anything that's been unsaid? Anything that you hoped that we'd talk about today that we haven't?
Wow. No, because I wasn't allowed to do any prep. No, we've actually touched on many areas. I do want to talk to you later about book writing, though, because I really want to get my book out of the way. I really want to write a book because your book was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
So I really want to write a book. It's been on my mind for so long, and I'm super lazy, so I haven't done it. I've done like 30 pages, and then I just kind of like, and then don't do anything.
Well, hopefully mentioning it now in this podcast is sort of like manifesting in a way, and maybe one of the publishers will hear it and think this guy's got a good story.
Can I get a ghostwriter? If there's a ghostwriter out there, in fact, just someone who can write it. Can I just send stuff? Ghostwriters are fucking great. Like they'll sit down with you for like 10 hours, they'll get your story, and then they'll write it. But then you'll read the manuscript, and they do a fantastic job. But you'll be like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't phrase it that way. Oh, yeah. I think you've got such a big voice yourself. It would be an injustice for anyone else to write your story. Thank you. I have read a lot of biographies, autobiographies, or and those abouts, and some of them read terrible, don't they? You read them and you're just like, oh, this is painful to read. And then others, I'm not barking up Sir Richard Branson's tree or anything, but has a very easy to read. And there's been a couple of others. I've got a friend Dave Mack who's in a chair, and he's like, what's his? It's All About the Jazz. His fantastic book and it's very easy to read. It's storylines, it's chronological order. It also backtracks a little, and they're easy to read, and that's what I want mine to be.
Have you thought of a name?
Oh, yeah. I thought, you've got to have a title first, right? Yeah. Push Yourself. I thought it would be funny.
Oh, I love that.
I thought it would be funny.
That's good. There's a quote I wanted to end with. This is from you. I don't know what a bucket list is. Just get stuff done when you get a chance. Keep believing, keep moving, keep achieving. You got this.
Wow. Thank you.
You proud of yourself?
Thank you. I am. Thanks, Dom. That's
should be.
a really cool quote.
Yeah. Hope there's a lot of people that have heard this today that feel lazy or a slight sense of shame about how little they've done with their life.
That's mean.
No,
terrible.
No, but just if it can be, if it can be used as fuel to do more and realise, fuck, like the saying from Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying.
Absolutely.
Do stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone's Everest looks different. Somebody might listen to this and be like, oh, I have to go run a marathon. It's like, it doesn't have to be a marathon. It doesn't even have to be a 5K. It can be run to the shops. It can be a walk to the shops if you don't normally do it. It's just get up, as you say. I love that Shawshank. I can't think of 7 hells of shit he had to crawl through to get. No one looks at a man's shoes. But get busy dying or get busy living. It's that simple.
God, you love a movie quote, don't you?
I so do. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Argyle had it best, wasn't it? Welcome to the party, pal. It's a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie.
Oh, Die Hard. Hey, Lee Warren, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. You're a great human.
Thank you so much, Dom. I really appreciate it. Thank you.